Welcome to Playing Every Final Fantasy Kinda Gaiden, a vlog series covering spin-offs, alternate versions, and anything that doesn't fit into the format of the main show. Today we are talking about Romancing Saga 1 on the Super Famicom, specifically the fan translation done by DDS Translations. Today I am drinking, well, it's still Sapporo, this was a batch recording. Again, haven't shaved. The big takeaway! Ooh, this is so close to being something cool. Yes, we are covering games out of order. As long as they do not exceed where we are in the timeline of the main show, I will skip around a little bit. I do plan on doing Saga 2 and 3 on the Game Boy at some point, but I've always wanted to try Romancing Saga, and we're past that point in the main timeline, so fuck it. My show, my rules, let's just do that. Where do we begin with Romancing Saga 1? For starters, there are no random encounters. Everything is an enemy on the battlefield that moves around and bumps into you. This has an extremely awkward pace to it. You will see a choke point in the map and then realize that there are 13 fights in front of you that you need to trudge through to be able to get past it. Leaving the screen of the map and then coming back refreshes all the enemies most of the time. Which thankfully isn't too bad because most of the exploration in this game is kinda linear. Dungeons feel like weed-whacking swaths of enemies instead of doing any exploration or traversal. The chests you find in dungeons, only gold, never items. Gold's still crazy important, don't get it twisted. You will always need money in this game. You'll need money forever. I was still money dry by the time I beat it, but the jewel system, we'll talk about that more later. Your party exists on a 3x3 grid, even if it doesn't look like that during battle. Front row, middle row, and back row are all distinct zones that have different weapons with different ranges. Being flanked by an enemy on either your sides or your back means that you will have to spend turns getting people into the position you want them to be or the position they need to be to attack, or you have to use different skills or abilities or magic that they have to circumvent that. Enemies will also have formations and can thusly be flanked similarly. Which, I guess we gotta talk about combat now. This is Final Fantasy II on all sorts of speed. You have a party of 6, and they will almost indiscriminately level up regardless of what they do. The stats leveled up are based on their weapons or magic, maybe, I think, but they'll also just level up for doing nothing. You will have encounters where like 2 people swing a sword, enemy's dead, encounters over. The person who didn't swing their sword, they gain like compassion, they gained HP up, they gained strength, and you'll just sit there and go, okay, sure, I guess. Unlike Final Fantasy II, you will have more powerful encounters at times, but it never feels like there's actually a benefit to that. It just feels like sometimes this is harder because you level, again, kind of indiscriminately. There's no upside to a more difficult encounter the way Final Fantasy II, again, an amazing game, has it set up. A hard time in Final Fantasy II means you're probably getting stat increases. A hard time in Romancing Saga 1 means you just had a bad time. There are multiple weapon types you can choose from, but only a couple of weapons for each. You level individual weapons, and at every 5 levels, you'll gain 1 of your new special tech attacks. If you unequip that weapon, you lose all your levels on it. Even if you put it back on, you lose all your levels. So in this game, you marry every weapon that touches you, which really isn't that bad. Because if you have an axe and you get a super axe, we'll just call it that, there's no real reason to discard the old axe. You have 8 equipment slots for weapons and items and things of that nature, so you never need to unequip that original axe. In fact, it still has its skills. You can still use the skills of your original axe while you're leveling your super axe. And also, having a older axe while leveling the super axe makes your leveling go faster It seems, I think that happened every time with the exception to the very last super bow in the game. But every other time I had stuff equipped, it was like, cool, I'm just going to like power level this thing. Wow, that leveled it up really fast compared to everything else beforehand. It seems to work that way. One time it didn't, but it seems to work that way. Magic is somewhat similar. You buy magic, and it comes from one of 8 schools of magic, and you level it by use. Use not of spell, but use of general school of magic. These schools have an opposite school, so if you are learning earth magic and you try to learn wind magic, it will actually delete all of your earth magic. Granted, the game will tell you this ahead of time, so it's not being a dick about it, but it's just, you can't learn every magic. You can only learn half of them. But each school of magic has their own individual MP pool, so you can level multiple at a time. My spellcaster in the game had 3 schools of magic she was using, and each of them I was able to level up to have their own pool of MP towards those spells. Combat is a little weird because so much of the game feels like it's playing turn denial. For the majority of the game, enemies on the back row will have nothing to do but defend. If you can knock out the first row in front of them, everyone kind of scooches up and goes next in line, and then they're just going to defend because they were set to do just defend. They couldn't attack that round. So you really only need to take down that first row of enemies, and then you can take the next row, the next turn, without any sort of consequence to you. No damage, no nothing, unless they're back row spellcasters. This lends itself to a pace where you feel like you never take damage unless there are serious back row threats or you're attacking into very, very difficult enemies. The combat, thusly, is only really interesting when you have front and back row danger to deal with. You need to take care of all your threats, otherwise you just chop enemies down row by row by row until the encounter's done. They rarely get a chance to attack you otherwise. This includes bosses. Almost every boss in this game is the most advanced form of a DPS race. You just want to slam them with your biggest techs. Sometimes your status abilities, if they are weak to paralyze or sleep or something. But even then, a lot of bosses are just like, fuck it. I'm going to blow all my big spells and take it out in 2 turns. You will have spells that are like, oh, I will, buff someone's strength. I'll change the terrain to better suit this school of magic. I'll slow the enemy. I'll blind the enemy. And so many of those never have a time to actually be useful because everything is just like DPS, kill fast, kill fast. Even the big bosses. Like, it wasn't until like the end of the game, the very last couple of bosses, where it's like, oh, I finally have like enough turns to do this, to actually like maybe spend time buffing, maybe spend time changing terrain, maybe spend time doing some things instead of just be like, boom, fast, kill, go, cool. You start the game by picking one of 8 main characters and adjusting their stats as you see fit. I'm not going to explain it here, it's complicated. They each have their own little introduction chapter before they get kind of booted into the main game. I did Albert, and I thought his introductory chapter was long and kind of boring. So the thing that makes Romancing Saga 1 famous is that it is almost totally open-ended. There's not a main quest you are doing. You can find new lands by talking to people, and you can find new characters in pubs and recruit them as you see fit. There are new scenarios or quests to find just by talking to people. The bulk of the game is doing these quests for their rewards. Quests or scenarios have extremely little story attached to them. They're not side quests. They do not feed into anything. They're just tasks at the end of the day. There is a hidden tracker to the game that logs how many battles you have been in so far. Not one, not run from, just all of them. At certain battle thresholds, the state of the game changes. Enemies get more difficult. People will move locations within those pubs. Certain things will unlock for quests. Certain quests will close down permanently. You can be in multiple quests at once and not even really realize it. It's not like it tells you when a quest happens. It's not like, boom, quest accepted. There is no walkable world map to this game. You just pick towns and zones to go to. Some areas are interconnected and you can feed through to find out different places, but many of them can only be accessed through boat rides. which costs money. Keeping all of this in your head can be a little bit difficult. The times where this actually works are so cool. The times when you have nothing going on and you're like, okay, what do I do in this game? I should go find a quest. And you go and you explore around and you talk to people and you find a quest and you're like, oh shit, that's so magical. You feel like you are part of this world when things maybe happen around you or you find things that happen to you. I had a quest trip off when I slept at an inn in one town and an assassin tried to get me in my sleep. I found quests by going to pubs in different parts of the world and they were telling me about things that I could do. You know, that is when the sell of Romancing SaGa really kicks in. That open world, open-ended, non-linear game actually delivers that experience. And you just go, whoa, there's nothing like that. There's nothing like that out there. That's so crazy. Why, it worked. It worked. It actually worked. But the problem is that these quests do not really have anything going for them other than combat. There aren't any puzzles or interesting stories or cool dungeon layouts half the time. You'll get some, but not many. Everything's just combat. You just find reasons to go do combat. We should talk about the jewel system. The jewel system fucking sucks. I find it extremely frustrating, and I actually just fail to see a purpose to it at all. You can only have 9999 gold, and then to get past that, you need to have an item in your inventory and you sell it to get your number over that 9999 threshold, and you get 1 jewel. A jewel's worth 9999. This completely affects the flow of the game. The flow of dungeons, the rewards of dungeons, purchasing, boat rides. It affects everything, and it affects it in a way that fucking sucks. Because you will exit a dungeon. No, actually, let's back up. You will be in a dungeon, and you'll be like, shit, I'm already close to 9999. There's no point to go find any of these chests. They all contain gold. There's no items. So you hit 9999 by the time you naturally get through a dungeon. Again, many of them have choke points, so it's not like you can avoid that many encounters. You'll exit the quest and you'll exit the dungeon and you'll be like, shit, okay, well, I need to have an item to sell. I need to have something that I'm okay selling to get me over that 9999, so I have a jewel. And then you do that and you go, okay, cool, I did that. Well, now to find another quest, I need to take a boat ride. Taking a boat ride can cost 500 gold. Well, you don't want to do that now because then you just break up the jewel you simply purchased, so to speak. So you need to go grind again. You need to grind up after you get out of the dungeon, you sell something to get your jewel, you grind back up just a little bit so you can use the boat so you can get to your next quest and then start it all over again. And I don't think there's anything that really comes as a benefit because of that, and so I fucking hate it. This makes the game so fucking boring for me. There are too many quests that are just combat dungeons, and the encounter-to-encounter pace for this game is not enjoyable, nor is it engaging, thanks to the kind of lacklusterly random leveling that you have to do. I did a quest where I needed to find a king's kidnapped daughter. It was a dragon that had kidnapped her, and the dragon said, I'll give her to you if you find the item that another dragon has for me. So I find the other dragon. That dragon says, interesting. I will give you this item for that dragon if you find that other dragon and have his item for me. And you're like, okay, well, that's the third dragon. Let's go do that then. So you find the third dragon, and you're never going to fucking believe this. The third dragon says, yeah, good. Here, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'll give you that item if you, don't say it, if you get me the item from the fourth dragon. It's actually a different creature, but for sake, we'll just say it's a dragon. So you are just going through dungeon encounter, doing nothing other than trying to find this long chain of Ocarina of Time ass fucking item puzzle. And it sucks the stars from the sky. It's not engaging. There's nothing to do during this time other than just combat. The non-level stat raising system lacks the granularity that would make any amount of combat like this fun. You raise your weapon and magic levels through use, sure, I guess, but the stats feel completely and utterly random otherwise. So there's not like, you never get the feeling that you're guiding a character to a destination. You're just Sure, I'm going to do these combat encounters, and if you feel so inclined, you can do the fucking can and tell me how many stat raises happened for your compassion, even if you didn't attack. But the pitch for this game is so innovative. Like, you can tell they were trying to do everything the way you normally wouldn't. It just can't follow through all the way. So I can see why this was remade as Romancing Saga 1 Minstrel Song, because realistically, the core of what's going on here is super cool. There's something really, really interesting going on. It just can't find it. And I can also maybe see why Romancing Saga 2 is heralded as this big, gigantic high point of the series. Because if you were able to take Romancing Saga 1 and go, okay, like, iterate on this, chop this, improve this, if you were able to take this and tweak it and really give it that extra mustard, then damn, there is a really fucking cool game on the other side of that. So I will give Romancing Saga 1 its props for being so against the grain. Almost annoyingly so. But the lack of authored content makes that open world feel like a wide expanse of sameness. You can have emergent experiences that come from that, but so much of the game just felt like random battles with the same actions. I had to play this game with like a show on or a podcast on or something, because so much of it was just like bop, 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 just tappa, 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 just get through the random encounter. It's not going to cause you any difficulty. Just keep doing it. As always, be good to each other, explore your creativity. I'll see you next time.